Welcome, everyone. It is 6 o'clock on Wednesday, May 20th, and I'd like to call the Concord School Committee to order.
We don't have to roll
Right.
call
We-
because we're all present in the room,
We
nobody's
have
on Zoom.
quorum.
Unless,
Michelle is not online. Been tracking that. And Michael, on that note, would you mind if she does join, just flagging it in case I'm deep? Okay. I don't have
can
it.
join.
Oh, okay, no worries. All right, I want to note that the listings on today's agenda are those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Other items not listed may be brought up to the extent permissible by law. Our first item today is recognition. Are you doing?
I'll cue it up and I'll have Ms. Bradford and all the middle school folks come on this way. So we, after hearing Mr. Cameron and I spoke about the experience that just happened at the middle school where students were shadowed by members of the staff. And it was a really powerful experience for everyone. And I heard a lot about the debriefs and the times that they've shared out, and we thought it'd be great to give you a taste of that. So Ms. Bradford's here with some students, and we'll kick it off.
Should we introduce ourselves first?
Please.
So I am the assistant principal, but today I'm here in the capacity as one of the adults who participated in the Shadow Day. I followed an 8th grade student from Bell to Bell.
I'm Summer, and I go to Concord Middle School.
I'm Miles, and I'm an 8th grader at Concord Middle School.
And what grader?
6th grade.
6th grade. So this was a day that we got planning a couple of months ago, similar to a day that we'd done, I don't know, about 5 years ago. Mr. Cameron said, we're in this new building, we have a new bell schedule this year, it's time to do the experience again. The goal is for teachers to live the day through the eyes of a student. And I think one of the most interesting things was when students were asked why they signed up for the day. So students did volunteer in order to participate. The host of reasons was incredible. Some of it was, we are doing a really neat project and I want my teacher to see it. Some of it is, I want to get to know an adult in the middle school. Some of it was, I want everyone to see how much homework we have, it's terrible. Some of it is, I'm a student in special education and I want people to see the experience through the lens there. Do you guys remember, this was 2 months ago probably, that you filled out this form? Why you said you were interested in volunteering?
Well, I wanted to show how it felt to be a middle school student, and I wanted the teachers to know that.
I thought it would be an interesting experience that you don't really get to do a lot at a school or a middle school in particular. So I thought it would just be a fun thing to do, honestly.
So we're here, I think, if anybody has questions about the experience or takeaways from the students or from myself and what we encountered during the day.
I have a question.
Sure.
So did you have your teachers go on the bus with you? Did it start at your house or no? No, so it's just the school day.
It started in home base and ended at the end bell.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask my first question to Ms. Bradford.
Sure.
What was something that you realized after doing this with your students? Because I was around the last time they did this, and there were definitely a lot of take-homes after that.
Yep. Something that I'm going to answer your question, but first I'm going to say the thing I was the most nervous about going into the day is that we have changed our Wednesday bell schedule in order to accommodate a full 30-minute advisory block every Wednesday. And I was curious what those 30-minute periods would feel like and how frenetic the day would be passing class to class. I was so impressed by what happens over the course of that 30 minutes, and really the depth of learning that can take place in that. It was not a frenetic experience. I think the thing that I realized the most is the balance that exists over the course of the day. During the day I participated in a discussion in science class about whether genetic manipulation should be allowed or not. Harkness discussion, is that right? Yeah. There was students reading in English a play and making plans on how they were going to produce that play together. There was an activity in social studies where students are up and on their feet the entire time. So really it was like the teachers had all gotten together and really talked, I'm gonna do this, so you do that, because I want this to be different. We don't have the benefit of the elementary day where the teacher can do that within their own classroom. And that sense of balance was really, really amazing throughout that. I think that's what I realized.
Okay, and for Summer and Miles, were they teachers that you have in school right now? And did you feel awkward at all? Or did you feel like you got to know your teacher a little bit better? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, like the teacher that I had, he was on a different team, so I didn't really know him, so I was a little nervous about it, and I was like, how is this gonna go?
I had my 8th grade social studies teacher, and it wasn't really awkward per se, but I guess we got to know each other better. Yeah.
Summer, Michael, did you find that you got to know what it was like to be shadowed by a teacher better, get to understand a teacher better?
Yeah, definitely.
Tell me about how that felt.
Like, it felt like,
Seeing something from a different direction, maybe?
yeah, kind of.
Okay.
Would you do it again?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, were there any moments where something happened and you thought, oh, I wonder what my teacher's making of this in class?
Well, not in class, but so in band, me and my friend tried to get like the aisle seat every time, and we met up in the hallway, and then we raced, and I lost my shadow. Yeah, I wondered what he thought of that.
There was quite a bit of talk of that in the debrief, the 6 teachers who participated. You know, there were moments in the hallways where we couldn't keep up.
We're glad you gave them the whole
Yeah.
experience.
Right, and you also had like lunch and your outdoor time, did you have that too with your
Yeah.
teachers? Did they play the games outside or no? I need to know.
I didn't go outside that day.
Oh, that's
so
it,
I don't know.
outside,
I don't think we could go outside.
okay.
I think
Right, so short.
the other shadow teachers did go outside and climb the ropes course. So
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, Miss Hogan Stedman, I remember she got into recess.
Did they tell you anything that surprised them or that they learned? I'm curious, were they completely shadows, like, or they were allowed to talk to you? I'm trying to imagine what it would be like to have somebody following me around. And did you talk about anything other than school?
they talked to us. They had a notebook, so they were writing stuff down, and they weren't allowed to tell us what they were writing until the I guess panel later that week. And I don't know. I mean, I talked to Mr. Matos, my shadow, a little bit in like home base and classes, but for most of the time, it was just a shadow kind of just observing.
Summer, did
Yeah, I
you
agree
hear
with
anything?
him. It was mostly all about school.
All about school. Okay.
Stay focused.
Yeah,
Yes.
stay on task. That's good. Did you go to the panel? I'm curious if they took away what you thought they learned from the day with you.
Yeah, I went to the panel with my shadow, and the main thing that I remember was that he said that the hallways were kind of, I don't know how I put it, almost like scary. I don't know about scary.
Passing
I
time.
can see that.
Yeah. I can imagine
Thinking
that.
back, yeah.
What about you, Summer?
Well, I didn't go to the panel.
You didn't go to
because
the
I
panel.
wasn't here that day.
Yeah.
I was gone for April break, so. Free.
Question, what was the takeaway for the faculty and staff from the experience?
So I think the transitions and thinking about that was definitely something that came up a lot. Happily, most of the class experiences that people recounted were about how impressed they were with the high level work kids are being asked to do. The student I shadowed, it was rigorous but not stressful would be how I described. We were doing parabolas, which I don't remember touching until 11th and 12th grade, and I had to live that experience of sort of saying I'm supposed to be filling out this worksheet. Who can help? And the other kids are helping, and it was wonderful, and a couple of adults in the room, and I think also the balance with technology was another thing that kind of stuck out. We used computers to answer to play kind of a review game at the end of math class, and then one other time for about 5 minutes in chorus to pick songs. It was voting on songs for the concert, so he did that through a Google form. That sense of balance was pretty neat too.
And what a great opportunity for the students, but for the faculty to really just be able to see a day in the life of a student, but also, you know, you're in your colleagues' classrooms and seeing what's happening during the school day in different subject matters from what you're teaching, so
Yeah.
it's great.
Yeah, figuring out an opportunity to do it more and with get all adults involved, I think it would be wonderful.
Do you guys have any interest in a day in the life of your teachers? Yeah. See what that teacher's lounge is like. Yeah.
Mr. Matos got to observe his own class, which I thought was pretty.
We had a test that day too.
That was well planned. Yeah.
Hope you took the test. Did you take the test? It's great.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, thank you, Summer, thank you, Miles,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for coming.
Michelle, welcome. See you
Great.
online. We'll now move to the superintendent chair's update. Lori.
Great, thank you. I'm gonna highlight a number of things. This is a very, very busy time, so it's a fairly eclectic list. I wanted to know, the middle school had their last playbook initiative session 2 weeks ago, I think, LGBTQ focused, so we had another, I think, successful year there, and I think we pushed ourselves into being a little less comfortable with the scenarios we're giving the students so that they're a little harder and more realistic in some ways. So again, very high level discussions by the middle school students and the leadership of the peers that have been trained. This is I know a pre-K-8 meeting, but I wanna note that Vision of a Graduate is going to be making its way formally to the pre-K-8 setting. At the last meeting, which I won't get into too much until the June joint session, but we're gonna formally have elementary, preschool, and middle school representation on the design team. Because I'm gonna say the obvious, all the skills that they are determining are visions of the graduate have scaffolds that start really early. And we saw some really great models of other districts that plan out what's gonna happen when, so that when they are by the time they arrive at the high school, there's been precursor work. We already started some brainstorming on where some of those skills are happening, and there's lots of touch points already, so it's gonna be an exciting year next year as all this combines.
So quick question on that. I know this was shared when we initially spoke about Vision of the Graduate.
Yeah.
How often do we, I guess, revisit it?
I think that's a good conversation for the committee to give us an idea of the cadence you're looking for. We've wrapped up for this year with sort of a sketch of the skills that are gonna land in the final version. Started to plan for the next year is the how are we gonna do this? So we have a whole nother year's worth of work as a design team, gathering feedback, working with the consultant. So there's a lot more to come, but you let us know when you want an update and we'll be sure to bring that.
Can I offer one suggestion, which is, you know, we're in a sort of period maybe of unprecedented technological change, and I pride myself on being somebody who's like can see sort of the horizon of where things are going, and my ability to predict the future is terrible right now. I think in pretty much everybody. And so I wonder, is it possible, I'm sure technology and AI is sort of on your minds, but is it possible to also take a lens of like, hey, what if outcome is X versus Y, and maybe what if we're wrong? I think it's interesting to like, what world are young people
Yeah, I
stepping
think
into
the way
so
that
early?
it's been framed for us, given every point you just made, which is correct, that the skills we're naming are the fluid, ubiquitous skills that don't rely on whatever change has happened, but the creativity, the collaboration,
I love that.
the resilience is required even more than it used to be because of all of that.
That's great.
So that's the mindset. Well, we should bring you an update soon,
Yeah.
obviously.
I
So,
would
yeah,
love to
we
see
will.
it. Sounds fantastic.
A reminder, the grade 8, Miles is probably going home to get ready to pack for next week. DC leaves June 1st, so there's a lot of work going on there. it is the season of our really, it started earlier, but there's a lot of events over these last few weeks for transitions. We had a really great show of grade 5 parents at the middle school the other night with Mr. Cameron, 5 to 6. He's texting me from the auditorium. Did you know, because he asks them how many have 5th grade as this is your first child coming to the middle school. Does anyone in the room remember the model that he and I inherited 9 years ago with Peabody and Sanborn, and they're both 6 through 8 and about less than 10 people.
Good.
Like, this is the next generation. Yeah, this is the next generation of middle schoolers on their way, which is great.
Aging
So we're aging out of that era, and now it's
I'm
gonna be
never
this new
aging out,
building.
so I'm just kidding.
He was also excited. There were a lot of families that hadn't been in the new building yet, so
Yeah.
what a great opportunity
That's
for them to. And of course, we're doing 8 to 9 transition as well, so we'll just continue to keep working with that. EL as our literacy program, we're wrapping up year 1 and reflecting today's Wednesday afternoon session was both debrief for the first cohort and some looking forward prep for the second cohort. Just wandering among grade levels, there were a lot of great discussions. I looked at them like, what a difference a year makes, huh? Like, wow, big. I think it's gonna be an exciting next year as we get from this group that knows the program now and can start talking about, I was in a whole conversation of special education modifications, like another level of finesse and implementation to come, so that's exciting. My last comment is I have set up a meeting with a couple of the lead parents on the technology discussions in town. I don't think they have a name, but so I'm gonna be meeting with them as a starting point to a conversation. I think public comment and the emails we're all seeing, we agree on most of it, if not all of it, and I invited them in to start the conversation directly with us and try to get some information flow started. It'll be June, but at least we'll have opened that door. They're happy to come, and we'll let you know how that.
That's great.
Yeah, thank you.
I just had one thing, the chairs breakfast was this morning, and all the chairs are kind of turning over, so they said to just provide them with our chairs, which I said we would do that at the June 3rd meeting. They're looking for a financial audit committee, and they're, I think, really hoping that you will continue and
I'd love to.
I-
and I think
so it's
that
up
things
to
will
you- it's up
change
to
that,
you.
but-
so I'm just putting that out there to you. I told them that Brian has to win his election first and then has to come over here and talk over, like, I can't give you that answer till June 3rd. So I think if we can just get them that's the most pressing one that they had, but other than that, that was all I had.
Excellent. Andrew didn't have any updates to share, but I will share one thing from the Bias and Hate Incident Working Group, which held its meeting yesterday. We are going to present to the select board on the 22nd of June, I believe. So pretty much the output is ready to go. There's a couple of charts that need to be edited, but it should be done here in the next month. Michael, you were there. Was there something you'd like to add?
No, just other than, the fine tuning of what the presentation is going to be on the 22nd, and making certain that all the back end of your system works well. That's the only other things there.
And there's a lot of work that needs to be done after this becomes also, it's taking it and sharing it with the community, getting feedback once, after we finish sharing.
And is there like a date to launch, or is that too preliminary? Do I have to?
I think it is a little.
Okay, so
preliminary for
okay.
that.
And is the working group gonna continue, or is once the,
I don't think the
Great.
working group
Yeah.
is charged of the select board ends with this recommendation, but
Got it.
Paul, who is chairing the working group, is also on the select board, right? So we'll see.
perfect,
I do think it is something that, this is speaking for myself, not as the committee, it's not work that is complete, so
Right.
you'll have to revisit at some point. So there needs to be some mechanism either through that committee or something like that. So
okay, some other maybe working group or committee taking it up with a different charge. Okay, great, that's,
Oh,
The
okay.
fact that the Bias and Hate Incident Reporting Work Group is going to be ending up its body of work by the end of the next month, again, does argue for us considering how we look at the issues that we've had and may come up in our schools, so to consider, again, changing the focus and the name of that agenda item, and just bring that up again to keep front of mind for our next meeting.
Thank you.
And I had one more thing that I just forgot. I also had a chairs roundtable today, which is, it's 20 school committee chairs that today we had, I think 5 of us were here, and our MASC rep was here. So it's just a really great opportunity to share what's happening in districts. I had an opportunity to talk to Alicia about some policy things, so that happens usually about once a month.
But that's school committee chairs.
School committee chairs,
Got it.
just school
Different than the
committee chairs.
chairs breakfast, which is town.
The chair's breakfast is town employees. We talked about school committee chairs. You know, it's really interesting to see what's happening in other districts and, you know, some of the struggles that are out there, some of the challenges, you know, budget was definitely part of our discussion today, and how to work with town select board, finance committee. Like, there's a lot of that discussion happening in every single district. And you know, if you read any of the articles, I mean, most of them are budget related and, you know, towns with overrides and things like that. So it was good.
Is it Middlesex County or broader than that?
So it's mostly Middlesex County, so it's all of our peer districts, and then some keep getting added, so if people ask to join us, they join us. And so Alicia is trying to replicate this in other areas. She's like, this is the only one that happens. There's one other area that they have one. She's like, we just can't get it off the ground. And sometimes we'll have 10 people, sometimes we'll have 5, sometimes it's 2, but whoever ends up coming, they get something out of it. So actually the chair of Lexington was like, I'm not gonna be the chair, but can I keep coming? And so we have no rules and there's no quorum, like it's just, and anybody could go, you know, it could be a designee of the committee, like the chair or their designee. So that's why I said, well, maybe it's gotta be the chair or their designee if the chair can't be there.
Interesting.
yeah.
Well, you wanna be careful not to have a
You
quorum.
can, of course, right, so it has to be the chair or their designee, or the chair, Alicia suggested chair or vice
Yeah,
chair,
that makes sense.
so,
Wonderful.
that's what's great.
Any other questions? Michelle, anything?
No.
All right.
No, thanks, Cindy.
Right, we'll now open the floor for public comment for a period of 20 minutes. Public comment is an opportunity for community members to address the committee on matters related to our schools. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. If you are here in the room and you would like to speak, please submit a blue form that's kept up there. If you are joining us on Zoom, raise your hand and we'll promote you to be able to speak. I want to note that this is a meeting in the public, not a meeting with the public, and the committee will not be responding to comments, but everything shared is heard and appreciated. We'll alternate between the room and Zoom, starting with the comment.
Before you start, do you mind if I ask one quick question?
Please do.
If we wanted to ask a clarifying question, could we, or is that? I'm
No,
just trying to understand how,
It's
what,
up to Sandeep for
Yeah,
this meeting.
we'll try not to.
okay, I appreciate that.
Joe?
Do you want me to tell you?
Please, so
Yep,
fill that part.
okay.
Nice to see you all. Okay, I want to first to talk about Concord Pride. Concord Pride is our 3rd year. The school district has always been super supportive. Andrew has been on our work group, Andrew and the DIB work in town. Thank you for sharing all the information. Just want to let you know it's on June 6th. This year and as the years past, folks have collaborated with Spectrum. They're high school students that perform on the stage, that participate, their families participate. Alka PTG on their own is asked to, they're gonna have a group marching in the parade. So I just wanna remind you, I have a flyer for you, especially if you're free and you're in town, to come that day, whether you wanna walk with us or just be at the festival. When kids and families see you, it's really important. So I just wanted to mention that. I'll pass that out to
Do you have that calendar graph?
Yeah. And the other item I wanted to talk about is I've spoken to Sandeep and I've spoken to Drew just casually about the Black Heritage Trail, which is being worked on in the town of Concord through the Black Heritage Trail marker is a project that proposes to place 8 to 10 trail markers within the town along an established Black Heritage Trail. The markers are trying to center Black history and all the Black residents of Concord help build the community. And as we know, Black history is American history. Visibility matters, helps how those who feel welcome, whose stories are told, how communities remain relevant in a changing world. And this context underscores while making Black history visible in Concord is super important right now. It's not just honoring the past, it's about, as you well know, signaling who belongs here today and in the future. Now, all of us as educators are especially aware that our diverse population of students and families from Concord, Carlisle, and Boston need to see themselves in the community. And there's these amazing educational opportunities that come with these trail markers. I was doing some kind of just going through it today. At nearly every school site in the district is within walking distance to one or more of these trail markers. The high school is literally across the street from the marker they'll be going in around Bristol Freeman and the community that lived in Walden Woods. The Ellen Garrison Building and Willard are within walking distance of the one that's going to be placed near Williams Road on the Bruce Rodriguez Rail Trail to learn about the Dugan neighborhood and George Dugan and his service in the Civil War. And then, of course, Alcott is like with walking distance to so many sites. Some of them, the teachers in their classroom could literally walk to Concord Center and take their students to say, Frederick Douglass spoke here 3 times. By the way, this other house here, Harriet Tubman, stayed here several times and she spoke over here. So just the fact that kids would be able to leave their school building and walk and see a site like that, it's not typical in any little town. So the reason I'm asking tonight is the select board has already given unanimous approval for preliminary approval in April. We're doing what's called the regulatory meeting, so HDC, Natural Resources Commission, Cemetery Committee. So we're hoping if there's any way that you could put some sort of general letter of support for the concept, either from the school committee or the administration or both, supporting the final approval of the project, which will happen in June. We appreciate any positional or moral support you could provide from your educational perspective. And if you all decided you want to do this at some point, everything's on the web. I can give you the information. We just need a general letter of support. Say it's a good idea, not ask you to pay for anything. There's no money involved. It's just like, we think it's a good idea. It's educationally sound. Please make it happen. Anything you can do, we appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Jeff.
And these are the pride things. I'll hand them around. Thank you.
Did you promote Diane? Hi, Diane, you should be able to speak now.
I have to select.
Hi, I particularly thank you so much for the good work you all are doing. Drew's question is really so pertinent, isn't it? Which is the question of, if you ask if there's a comment that's made, how lovely for you all to be able to have some sort of discourse with the public. I think that's the way you can assure that the public believes you're really listening to them and engaged. But my concern is a little bit different tonight that I would like to address. The webinar style that you're using prevents people like me who doesn't always hear as acutely as I wish. When I'm at Ripley or I'm in other places, some of the most wonderful people on the committee speak so slowly and so lowly we can't hear them. So it's better if I'm at home listening. And I'm in a meeting until 5:30 every time. So I get home, I rush home, I have a little bit of dinner, and then I join you all. But the webinar does something that is really frustrating for those of us online, which is we have no idea who else is, or if anybody else is watching or listening. The select board has a system that would allow people to not participate, not raise their hand, not be involved, but would let people know who else is engaged and involved. And it would mean the world to know that I'm not sitting here alone in my room, having a cup of iced tea on a very hot day, and knowing there were 20 other people attending to the good work you're doing. So if you all could investigate alternative styles, then just the absolutely close out webinar, it would be deeply appreciated by folks like me. Thank you. And I know you can't respond, but I wish you could.
But I'm going to. I just want to explain, because that was a very deliberate choice made, I think, 2 years ago. We had been Zoom bombed horrendously, and very offensive things had happened. And the webinar is that is the only reason we're on the webinar, is a security measure that prevents, in a much more reliable way, people being able to get access. Because to your point, everyone's an attendee unless they're promoted, and it's a double layer of security. That is the only reason that we're using this, is the Zoom bombing problem and trying to avoid that. So
I appreciate that so much, Laurie. I think that there are people who are more expert at all this than I, who say that with the right kind of intervention, Zoom bombing can be essentially diminished to eliminated. I don't know, but I hope you all are continuing to look into that as a strategy, because it just is, it's frustrating from this end. But thank you for your kind response. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. We have somebody else, like Mandy, who's raised their hand online.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you for your time. My name is Kim Forsyth. I am a Thoreau parent. I'm also a mental health provider for children and families in our community here in Concord. So I am joining tonight to be a part of the advocacy group regarding intentional technology use in our schools. Dr. Hunter, I'm so glad to hear that you're going to be meeting with some of our representatives in June. We do have a name. It's the Intentional Technology Coalition, or Intentional Tech Coalition. And really, it's a twofold experience for me as a new parent in our community and a new provider in our community, that I have both been surprised by my own lack of education and transparency around technology use in the school. And also then as a provider in our community and supporting our families, that I am seeing technology be a point of disconnection and a point of contention for families trying to navigate that. And so being able to have increased communication around technology use, its intentional purposes, and how we can also empower families around the use of these mechanisms that are important, but also balancing with our human connection. So thank you for your time. That's all I have.
Thank you so much. Amy, should I come up and speak?
Do you like me?
Yep, please.
Okie, good evening. My name is Dr. Amy Amick. I am here as both a parent in Concord, Mass. And a board certified neurologist. I focus my career on improving brain health in my patients. Childhood and adolescence are periods of extraordinary brain development. As our world becomes increasingly technology driven, I am curious not whether screens belong in education, but whether we are using them in ways that protect attention, sleep, learning, emotional health, and real human connection. As they say, many people say, play is the work of childhood. The developing brain learns through sensory-rich physical activity, social interaction, handwriting, problem solving, and even tolerating boredom, all within a nurturing and safe environment. Excessive screen exposure can displace many of these neurologically important experiences. Studies show that reading comprehension is often better when material is read on paper rather than on a screen. Research also suggests that handwriting plays a critical role in developing reading and comprehension skills. We may not fully understand all of the underlying mechanisms yet, but we do know that the physical act of writing by hand appears to strengthen learning and literacy pathways in the developing brain. We also have to think about childhood in stages. The concerns in younger children may center more around language development, attention, foundational learning skills. In adolescence, we worry increasingly about anxiety, depression, social comparison, and sleep disruption. The American Academy of Pediatrics has moved beyond simply asking how much screen time, and instead ask whether screens are crowding out the activities children and families value most. I am taking a pro-childhood stance, not an anti-technology stance. Let's be thoughtful, evidence-based, and willing to ask, when does a screen truly improve learning, and when does it replace something the developing brain needs more? I support the school district's initiative to assess and report on the technology use in our schools. As a community known for educational excellence and civic engagement, Concord should be leading this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's no one online. Emily.
Hello.
Good evening. My name's Emily Lyons. I live at 63 Bruce Road. I'm the parent of 3 wild and crazy children in Concord Public Schools. That wasn't written, Kara, added that. My background is in nonprofit leadership, and I'm a local organizer working with families who are striving to make more intentional and informed technology choices for their children. Recently, I, along with some other folks, launched the Intentional Tech Coalition, which Kim mentioned. We are a group of over 100 parents and caregivers in Concord who are committed to thoughtful, school-based and home-based technology practices. I'm deeply grateful to the folks who are involved in our group, and I'm continually inspired by the breadth and depth of expertise within our community. It is truly astounding. First, I would like to sincerely thank Dr. Hunter and the whole school committee for committing to developing a district-wide report on technology use, and I thank you so much for inviting us into the conversation. Gathering this baseline information about current educational technology and AI use across grade levels is an important and constructive step, and I truly appreciate the district's willingness to engage thoughtfully with this topic. As other Massachusetts communities, including Cambridge, Lowell, Natick, Northampton, and Somerville have begun to do, I would also encourage Concord and Carlisle to collect 3 pieces of information for the report. Student screen time data, existing written technology policies, and inventories of the digital learning and AI apps, platforms, and tools being used across each grade, along with their educational purpose. Once this foundational work is complete, I would also like to echo fellow public commenters who've expressed interest in establishing a technology advisory committee. Working collaboratively, the Technology Advisory Committee could produce recommendations to support the district. Technology decision-making in schools is becoming increasingly complex, and I recognize the enormous responsibility already carried by teachers and administrators. And my hope is that the Technology Advisory Committee could serve as a supportive partner to the district, helping to streamline decision-making, share expertise, protect the district from any potential gaps in oversight, and ensure that technology choices continue to align with the district's educational values and the well-being of our students for years to come. Thank you so much.
Would you mind sending those 3 pieces of information?
Yeah, sure. Student screen time data. And the way it's being reported, Cambridge is in the process of producing a report on this, and they're reporting, I think, weekly average screen time grade by grade, I believe. And I can forward you some materials from them. Any existing written technology policies that are in place. And then the third would be, there's also precedent for this. Northampton has one and Cambridge has one that looks just the same. It's an inventory of all of the digital learning and AI apps, platforms, tools that are currently being used across each grade and their educational purpose. Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much.
Seeing no one else wishing to comment, we'll close public comment. Before we move to the consent agenda, Michelle, I know we usually have a Metco update along with the chair's update. I did not call you to do that. Is there something you'd like to share?
Yes, thank you, Sandeep. I just wanted to share that the K through 8 Metco had their spring picnic on Saturday, which was well attended. We had one Concord family and numerous Boston families at Almont Park in Mattapan, and it was a great time. The other thing that I did want to bring up was several parents reached out to me about the buses, and I'm not sure if this is something, Dr. Hunter, you can look into, but with the heat wave, the buses don't have air conditioning, and with the kids being on the buses for over an hour, yesterday particularly, there was a lot of like fatigue and just exhausted kids getting off the bus. So I don't know what the situation is with all the buses in the fleet, but that was a warm one yesterday. We've got a spring formal coming up on June 6th, which is an exciting event that Solange Benjamin is, coordinating, and the kids are really excited. They're going to do some awards for the kids that are graduating kindergarten and moving on from 5th grade to 6th grade. And so we've got a ton of events going on, and everyone's really excited for the end of the year. That's it. Thanks.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thanks, Michelle, for reminding us that people spend a lot of time on buses. It's not something every student experiences, so. It was a hot one, even without a bus.
I wish they were all air conditioned,
Yeah,
they aren't, and I think any of them are, actually.
I don't know if any of them are.
It's a hot ride for everyone, certainly for the Boston students.
Excellent. Next up is the consent agenda, which includes approval of the Concord School Committee minutes from March 18th, 2026. Is there any member that would like to pull it for a separate discussion?
Yes, I'd like to have it pulled for correctness. I'd sent Andrew a copy to distribute. He didn't pass along.
That's correct.
Well, I think so. This is, he didn't pass along to me, he didn't pass along to you.
No, I think what we have to do is.
It's a
pull up the
quorum
minutes and then-
situation.
Yeah.
I think that's why he probably didn't. Because if you sent it to Andrew and then sent it to Samdi, we would have a quorum of the Concord School Committee.
So.
But how can we edit if we don't have it?
Well, so
We
we
can
can,
try
we have to
pulling
do
up
it
the
in the
minutes.
meeting.
We can do it
Yeah,
right
we do it in the
now.
meeting, yeah. So do we want to, because we talked about this at our last meeting, so do we want to, just for the sake of amending it, do we want to move it and then amend it?
Yes, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes from March 18, 2026.
So moved.
A second?
Sure, I actually wasn't at that meeting, so I'm probably gonna not vote on it. Is that?
It's
or-
fine.
It's fine.
It's fine. You can second it
I can
and then
second
you
it
can
even
amend
though
it,
I
because we
plan
can't
to-
amend it. Okay,
I'll move
so
to-
now Michael's gonna move to amend
And let me try and pull up the minutes.
and I'll second that, so we have a second out there, so. we
Let
can
me
do it.
see if I can send you what I sent.
I don't think I want to do that because
The plan was to send it to the chair so that it could be screen shared and then amended live.
So because Andrew's not here, why don't you can you email it to Lori and you can screen share? Can you screen share it from your iPad or no? I don't think you're on the,
You're not on
you're not on the
Zoom.
Zoom, so if you email to Lori
But you're probably
and then
faster
let's
to
do it live.
doing it live.
We're doing it live.
Apologies, I have to find it.
Oh, okay.
Maybe be able to just forward the email you sent to Andrew.
Find that too.
So Sandy, we won't be able to both share if he forwards that
Yeah,
to
that's
me,
fine.
so
So you stop your
you
screen
can
share.
stop and I'll pop on.
How about if I move up the correspondence ahead of the consent agenda so we can talk about that while Michael's looking for it?
Let's second that.
Okay,
Can we move up the correspondence discussion?
so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, you should have said that, sorry.
Yes. All in
Yes,
favor?
Michael's and I.
So this week, I'll just say for CPS, I think we had 3 or 4 pieces of correspondence that now Drew is in possession of, so we're working through some of our technology issues, and they were about technology, which is kind of ironic, that's really right.
I think they just figured it out, but I'll tell him privately
Okay,
what the
okay,
glitch
so
was.
we'll figure that out and make sure you're getting the emails.
Great.
And can I just ask, so you're not getting the regional or
It's
the
because of
concept.
what the glitch is.
because of the glitch?
Once we
Okay.
correct the glitch, it'll,
All right, and that was
take
all
care
the
of it.
correspondence we had this week, that's all I have to report.
You should have the.
I do.
Thanks, Tracy.
So now we have to move to approve the minutes.
So so Michael moved to amend, I seconded his
That's still-
amendment,
His
so it's on the table
motion,
and
right.
Lori's gonna share it. and then you're gonna walk us through your changes.
So these are the March 18th minutes. Both Aisha Lawton and Michelle McDougal were present. Aisha was sitting across from me and Michelle was sitting next to me. Wasn't recorded in the call to order. So that's a correction. And the substantive correction, the other substantive correction is on page 3 and 4. My statements were mischaracterized, suggesting that I believe that there was an open meeting law violation. My position was suggested that there was not, both from information I gotten from the Attorney General's office, and also information that I'd gotten that had been relayed both in public comment and at the chair's meeting that had occurred contemporaneously. So this is a correction for fact, and the strike throughs and the additions are there.
All right, any discussion?
I think at the top, can you just scroll up to the very top of the minutes, Lori?
The very top.
The very top, just for the first one.
Oh,
So,
yeah, it does say present.
so,
It says present, but in the call to order, they were not listed. And they were
Oh, interesting.
at the table, so.
Do they
Yeah,
not
so
do
I-
call?
It's roll call.
yeah, so I think what has been our process this year, so everyone present, and we actually talked a little bit about this morning, is listed at the top. And then the members are listed,
Only
committee
voting members?
voting members are listed there. And it wasn't a Zoom call to order either, right? No, we didn't roll
They were
call it.
physically present.
They were, right, they're physically present, which is noted up top, so I think that's why it wasn't there. So I think we would have to go back to how we're doing it, but I think my recollection is in the last sets of minutes that we've been approving, Aisha and Michelle are listed as present at the top. I just think we need to be consistent about what we're doing, and maybe go through and,
I'll pull up minutes.
do you wanna pull up a few sets of minutes
When
and
they're-
see?
In the meetings when they're physically present, not on Zoom.
Yeah,
I see.
I don't think that makes it from the physically present or not.
Yeah, I think that's
In
right.
the call to order in the past, we have not, at least the couple that I've looked at, listed our Medco members now. Whether or not we wanna change that, that's up for discussion in the future, but stay consistent with what we've done earlier on in the year, I think.
just maybe see how it is, cause I think we had something like this at another meeting, didn't we have something similar?
I'm not aware of
On
that.
roll,
no.
or, I thought it was something that you had, I don't know,
Yeah, so
Not aware of it.
the
It's up to you.
the convention this year, what we've been following is we list everybody who's been present, and in the call to order, we've been only listing the Concord and Concord Carlisle folks.
Only voting members.
Only voting members, so. We can discuss at a later time whether.
It's a good point for discussion.
If you want to make an edit, my name is spelled wrong.
Yeah, I see it now, Michelle, we'll fix it.
Thank you.
Two L's.
Two
Two
L's and
Ls.
Michelle.
Yep.
Yeah,
Thanks, Michelle.
No problem.
then the addition for substance is, the correction for substance still stands.
can I just read that again?
So the original said, Mr. Williams stated that open meeting was violated and urged the school committee to unanimously approve the amendment.
Which is the opposite of
It's
what.
the opposite of what you intended.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to read the both the same time. This one's-
Yeah, it's hard to read it without.
Oh, okay, I got it now,
That is a substantive edit.
We
I'm fine with it.
ready for a vote?
Sure.
Right, all those in favor of Michael's amendment?
Aye.
I'm gonna abstain just for, but I appreciate the correction.
The amendment passes.
Thank you, Michael, for paying close attention to those.
Excellent. There's nothing else in the consent agenda, I guess. So moving past to our discussion items. First up, we have an update from CMLP on the CMS solar project. Jason, I believe I see you online. Yes, there you are.
Hello.
Jason,
Can
the
you hear
floor is all yours.
Great, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here tonight to provide an update for the school committee on the middle school solar project. As was possibly known already by the committee, the school and district did not receive the Green Schoolworks grant that we had applied for. We thought that might be an eventuality, and we did find out earlier this week that there were 61 applicants for that grant, totaling $138 million in projects, and they only had $19 million in funding. So this project was not funded with that grant. I looked at the project that they selected just to try to understand what might have happened. And it seems like they kind of used some other criteria to evaluate, even though they told us in person that this was a good project that matched what they were trying to accomplish. A lot of the awardees were using ground source heat pumps. In fact, 11 million of the 19 went to ground source heat pump projects at schools. 18.5 million of the 19 million was actually for heating and cooling in schools. So there was only one project for about $100,000 that was related to solar, and it was more design and feasibility. So it seems like even though they touted solar and energy storage as a main component of this grant, it seems like they were focused in other directions. We did assume that the district might not get the grant, and so we had been working on exploring alternatives to that. As was mentioned at the last meeting, one of those options was looking at a purchase power agreement. And what these do is these are agreements that a utility would enter into, and they would basically, the developer would cover all the upfront costs and development costs for the project, and the utility would simply pay a per kilowatt hour charge for that power. The reason that these have been so successful is that they rely on a solar developer that can kind of own the entire process. And these solar developers also safe harbor a lot of materials, which means that even though some of the investment tax credits have been winding down at the federal level, there are still a lot of monies out there. And if you have certain products already onshore, then you can qualify for very large discounts, which if we were to go through a process again and be lucky enough to select somebody, it's unlikely that that timeline could yield construction to meet those deadlines and get those grants. So we'd likely still see large cost savings if we went that route. Just to note, there is no financial liability or fees or anything that the district would need to pay under this model. Lori mentioned she was very familiar with this and that she had used this model in another community. And it would be in front of the meter installation, as it always is planned to be. And that would just mean that the panels on the school would travel through separate wires. They're not integrated directly into the school, and they get connected to a switchboard that is property of the light plant. And then at that point, if the school has demand, the panels will generate power and provide it to the school through the meter. And if the school does not have demand, then the power will flow to other customers in the light plant's territory, likely kind of in the general vicinity of the school first, unless there's just really not a lot of load. So our plan is to continue to work on gathering details. I've been working with Laura Scott, the Light Plant's Assistant Director of Power Supply and Energy Management, to reach out and talk with several of the developers that do projects of this scope, specifically on schools. And we have already identified interested parties who could make this project happen very quickly if schedules align. So we do have a light board meeting on the 18th of June. And our goal is to try to prepare as many details and materials as we can in terms of pricing, size, scope, the mechanics of how the agreement would work, how any potential license agreements would work with Bob, Lori, and school administration to discuss all of those options, make sure that everybody, all the stakeholders understand are okay with those kind of terms, and then vet it with the light board. Because this is a purchase of power, the light board kind of votes and gives recommendations on that, as they do with all of our portfolio, whether we're buying hydro in Quebec or we're doing a power purchase agreement here in Concord. The board looks at the financials of the project and understands what the town goals are and tries to balance all of those so that they have a well-balanced and reasonably priced portfolio. So we know that the light board is supportive. We know the school committee has been supportive. And so we're hopeful that if we get the light board's blessing on one of these particular avenues, that then we could move very quickly. Talking to the developers, they have product on site and could potentially hit the summer months that the school would be vacant for. And that would be an ideal outcome in my mind. We can't promise that schedule, but that's what these folks have been telling us in our preliminary conversations. So at this point, again, gathering as much information as we can about pricing, project scope, and then really trying to define everybody's role in the process so that it's very clear what the school's responsibility is and what they're doing, what the light plant's responsibility is and what we're doing, and what the developer would be doing, so that all parties are kind of aware of and have acknowledged everyone's roles, and then move forward. The school committee has already voted to authorize the solar at the school. We are looking at the rooftop only for now because of those limitations on the canopies with exporting too much power and requiring a battery. So we're not crossing the battery bridge for now. We're just focusing on the rooftop solar, and we will get pricing information on canopy solar as well, just and have these discussions, but that's what we've been focusing on. So I can pause there and then ask if anybody on the committee has questions.
Thank you, Jason. Any questions?
I would just want to say I'm a new member of the committee, Jason, so I was in the audience the last time you presented. And first of all, thank you. I just want to say you have mastery of the subject, and we're lucky to have you in town. I remember you saying something at the last meeting, which was you basically said there's plan A, B, C, and D, and there are puts and takes in each one, and you were going to prepare like a one-page document on it. I wasn't on the committee until like a month ago, maybe less than a month ago, I guess. So I never saw that, or maybe it was posted somewhere. But I'm really curious to know if that document exists, I could look at it. And if not, I'm sure you're going to be preparing something new coming forward after your next meeting.
Yes, it does. It does exist. I did send it to Dr. Hunter, and she did distribute it to the committee at the time.
Okay.
And I'm happy to either she can distribute it to you, or I'm happy to send it to you directly. And it did outline all those different kind of models and discuss the pros and cons. And I will say that of the models, there were two that were really most feasible because the school doesn't have borrowing authorization for a project like this,
right.
And the school really can't appropriate any funds toward this project. So a couple of them were kind of off the table to begin with, even though technically they are how other schools do acquire solar. So we were focusing more on either the utility goes back out to bid with an RFP process, or we work with the developer on a power purchase agreement, as I outlined.
Which you just said.
If you'd like, I can just very briefly summarize, kind of the pros and cons of each. We did already go out to bid and didn't really have a success doing that. We heard from some of these developers that a lot of other districts and other utilities have been coming to them after being frustrated by the RFP process. There are a lot of things outside of your control with an RFP process, and some things that you kind of have to blindly accept. When you enter into an agreement like this, you have a lot more opportunity to negotiate the nuances of how the construction works, and it tends to be a much more successful project, especially from the school's perspective, because they're kind of a stakeholder. Once you kind of accept that bid, that's what you're getting, and the time for negotiation is done and discussion. So I think that when we talk to some of these folks, this is what they do. They work with schools and municipalities on doing municipal building solar, and they have tons of experience doing it, and they have a lot of very satisfied customers. And so when we do the bid process, we can't say the same thing, right? Because we don't really know who we're going to get that bids. We have certain requirements that they have some level of experience, but as you can imagine, having experience doing school solar can mean two very different things. I've done 2 projects, and so I can check that box. I've done 200 projects, and I have 190 very satisfied customers. So I think that this will, yield a very successful project. And because of the risk with the investment tax credit and the uncertainty of whether we would get reimbursed for the project, that risk gets transferred to the developer if we go with the PPA model. So we know what our all-in price is, and it's up to them to meet those milestones. If they don't produce the power, we don't pay. And we can, work on negotiating a fair rate that we feel like would fall in our portfolio. So that's why right now it's kind of the going successful strategy.
Leading strategy, and it seems like there are very few barriers to overcome in order to make it happen. Okay,
I would agree with that.
thank you. Any other
questions? Jason, you mentioned the timeline is very quick, and just to clarify, when you say the summer, we're talking about summer this year.
Yeah.
Starting next week.
Right, correct. The developers have told us that they have materials on hand, and it really is a question of how quickly the documentation can be turned around. And I don't want to understate what has to be done in the next few weeks, right? Because we do need to A, make sure we align on the size and scope of the project. B, make sure we all understand what the ownership requirements are. So the school, we want to make sure that the school is protected in terms of liability. We've always wanted a non-penetrating product for the rooftop, so we didn't have any issues with leaking. And we also just want to make sure insurance-wise that however the agreements are structured, that all parties are protected and that the developer bears all of the risk for those events. And so, I think that there's obviously vetting, there's council review, there's coordination between school administration, the town manager's office, the CMLP. So there is a lot of work to be done, but what they're telling us is that they see a window whereby a project like this could happen before school starts. But that's not a guarantee that it's happening this summer. They're just telling us that we have not yet missed that window. So if things proceed quickly, then it's still definitely a target. And I think at the last meeting, Lori expressed some flexibility that as long as work does not happen during school hours, as long as materials are not loaded when it impacts parking or driving or teachers or students, there might be some flexibility so that if it's during a vacation week or if it's happening on weekends or that initial loading, the only real impact is getting materials on the roof. The rest of it is just roof work and cabling. So there might be some flexibility. So we don't want to say it's not going to happen until next year if it doesn't happen now, but we also want to be very sensitive to the fact that first and foremost, this is a school and that the school operations need to be the first priority. And so we'll work happily with Lori on making sure that whatever schedule we set, the school is very happy with.
Thank you, Jason.
And when you do have a final plan, the committee will need to meet to approve it, right? So if it's over the summer.
Yeah, obviously there's a lot to work out still, so we'll bring you updates as we have them. As to who's formally approving what, I need guidance from Bob and Jason on that.
Yeah.
Because it's complicated.
I was just pointing out, we don't have any meetings scheduled over the summer.
Right.
So if that needs to happen.
Understood. Yeah, I mean, the school committee has already authorized permission for the light plant to put the solar on the roof. So we have that box kind of checked. I think if an alternative arrangement does not fit within the agreement that we already have, then we may need to go back to the school committee to discuss it. But, I think that's something we can identify very quickly. And so I don't worry that we'll be in July and the committee won't meet or anything. I think that that's one of those questions we can answer very early on. It's going to be the same for any developer that we work with. So we can identify whether the current agreement fits the model. If it doesn't, then we can come back to the committee and discuss it.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jason.
Thank you, Jason.
Happy to be here.
All right. Next up, we have district math.
Yeah.
committee report.
I'm gonna cue that up and then Shelley's gonna take it from there, and we're hoping for a conversation tonight. Because of our curriculum review cycle, we are in the early stages of the review of math. The caveat here is it's a pre-K-12 committee. This is the CPS discussion. So because of that, we are gonna hone in on pre-K-8. I told Shelley she can't talk about the high school. If you wanna ask her that, we just have to remind ourselves Carlisle's not in the room and it's really important they are. So it's gonna be tempting. This is not the only discussion we're gonna have about math. We're actually giving you kind of a mid-process update here. So the committee formed mid-year this year for the first time, and Shelley's work has been over the course of 3 or 4 meetings. So you really are in the early stages here, but I think it's a great time to give you an update on the work the committee has started, and Shelley can highlight any emerging ideas or thoughts that will start to drive the work next year. So, all
Do
yours.
you want me to share the slides? Or
Might be
just
helpful to
That
have
might be
them for
helpful.
reference.
Okay.
I know they don't want you to go through all of them, because
No.
it's a big deck.
There's 35
Michelle
chapters.
has
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
us.
Just a question, when you guys decided to do the EL program, did you go through a similar process like what Shelley is coordinating now with this committee to identify the areas that needed assistance and to figure out which direction you were gonna go in?
Yeah, it was very elementary focused, so that would be one difference, and it was very accelerated. But the tenets are all there, for sure, of reviewing where we were, what the research was saying, looking at where we wanted to go, and then moving forward. The gift of this, it's the first time in many years, this has been on my goal list for a while, and we're finally executing, to really do a pre-K whole district review, where when we did the EL program, we knew we needed to, all the research, most of the heavy research is about elementary reading instruction, so we knew we had to hone in right on that. So that was similar process, much more intense and more concentrated in one area. This is gonna take longer, have a much bigger scope. And as much as the outcomes and the goals we're gonna set are, and the what we're gonna do matters, having all these educators from across the schools in one room is also a really big outcome of the process.
And in the reading portion, you were also picking a curriculum. So there were 3 choices given throughout that process. Then it was the choices of which curriculum that we're
Well,
gonna choose
and
and the
so that
evaluation
was
of
the
that.
accelerating of
yeah,
all of it, cause eventually we're gonna get to what do we need to change in
Change in
math
math,
for
yeah.
curriculum. But that's probably almost a year-ish away. The EL piece was this on like just an
Yes.
incredibly laser focused,
Track.
aggressive
Yeah, very
timeline.
specific to curriculum and
Yeah.
option, whereas this is full scope of our math instruction, programming, pre-K through 12. So yeah, with that in mind, just knowing that this is really just phase 1 of it, we did start in January. We had our last meeting in just a few weeks ago. So wanted to just let you know that really this idea of when I recruited folks to join this committee, it was really to say we're going to do a self-study and a needs assessment, really is understanding where we are, what's the landscape, what do we currently do, what's our vision, so that we can think about what are the next steps to improve outcomes for all students and close achievement gaps for students. So with that, just want to acknowledge everybody that was on the committee. We had over 20 educators and administrators, and a lot of folks that were not on here came to meetings, other principals, assistant principals, and Lori came to a couple of the sessions as well. So want to acknowledge them for taking the time and effort to share and collaborate and just lean into the process. I do think that they were kind of questioning what's the purpose, what are we really gonna get done in 5 meetings? And it's hard sometimes to just tell folks, we're just gonna learn and just kind of understand what we're doing. Because everyone wants to be so action oriented and they already see challenges or areas they want to improve. But we do need to ground this in this idea of 2 guiding questions that I put forth to the committee was what is our vision? I think it's really important for us to always think about, particularly for domains. Math is a particular language. It has a set of, really specific practices when you really want to build deep understanding of math. You probably have your own ideas, and we did start with this question, what is math to you? What does it mean to you? And we know there's always a range of experiences of how people experience math, which may be somewhat different from other content areas or even literacy. It's almost like we were talking about this idea that some folks feel it's okay to be like, I'm just not good at math, and dismiss it. So we want to remind folks that math is a language, it's a discipline, but it is accessible, so long as you persevere and commit to this. And then there are a lot of, again, domain-specific practices and guiding principles that we need to follow. So with that, we really wanted to build like what is our vision of powerful math teaching and learning in Concord. These I'm not going to go over, but again, these are what we pulled from to remind ourselves. So this all comes from math curriculum frameworks, guiding principles from DESE, standards for mathematical practice are pulled from DESE, but this is specific to the National Council for Teachers of Mathematics. So this is a national organization. And those are all the things you need to think about in every lesson, and there's a lot, right? It's really content heavy, but then there's the pedagogical aspect to it as well. And then the teaching practices we talked about too, like what does it mean to teach mathematics powerfully and for all students to understand and deeply build their conceptual understanding. Because we often know, some of us have probably experienced it with math, we learned very procedurally, but we may not have understood the concepts behind it. And then if you don't have that conceptual understanding, it just gets harder and harder over the years. I would say I was probably in that kind of space, especially when you get to high school, when you feel like it's so complicated. So again, these are just different frameworks we looked at and used to guide our thinking. This is all Peter Liljedahl's work that the district has also been has used for professional learning. And again, it's a lot about illicit student thinking and discourse. Only to just share that we documented a lot of the work that we're doing. We talked about curriculum, we talked about the assessments, we talked about MTSS, intervention, and just talking about the time on learning as much as we could share across pre-K through 12. And it was really great for the educators to see that because they often do not get time to do this. We're so siloed by our schools, our own individual grade levels, so that the opportunity to come together was a really great learning experience for everyone, and that was one of the things they really appreciated. But with that, we drafted a pretty long and extensive instructional vision of what is important to us in math teaching and learning. So again, it's pulling from these different documents, but also thinking from our own vision of, in our strategic plan of like joy and learning and what does that mean. So it's again, student ownership, they have to do the majority of the thinking. It's really focused on conceptual understanding, and then obviously to make sure that students are doing that thinking, they have to be discussing and applying the math. And they have to continue to ask questions as much as they can, especially until they build that understanding. We did a lot. I've shared some of this data with you all around achievement data, but we looked at it as a K-12 team to think about how does this inform our work and what we're doing and where are the gaps. So we had those discussions. We talked about, we disaggregated by subgroups to look at where these gaps are. We know they exist. They are tough conversations to have, but we need to have them, and we continue to have them. So it's important to us to continue to look at that and think about what do we need to tend to, particularly around this vision if we are going to move students up.
Sure. Question on that.
Yeah.
What is the percentage M plus E?
So what I did,
That's all zero.
yeah, it's hard because when I was having the conversation with the group, it was really pulling out. So you can see for all students at the top by every subgroup here racially. Then I pulled the student groups who were not meeting or exceeding to say how are they breaking out. So in that right-hand bar, you can see with those bars, anybody who scored below 500, which is partially meeting, is the gray, and then the not meeting is those in the red. You can see the numbers there in terms of not necessarily their representation, but you can see, say, there were 13 Asian students who did not meet or exceed, and their average score was 490. So just to get a sense of just where students are falling for those groups that we need to move up. And are there differences and variances not only in achievement, but who represents those who are not? at grade level as determined by MCAS.
Shelley,
Yeah,
so at this point, you're gathering data.
yes.
So looking back, and I see you've pulled together, you look back over the past 5 years to cull this. Where in this cycle will you start to be looking at how or what we do next to address this?
We did make some recommendations this year around that and what the committee can continue to do. I don't think that I think it's embedded in a lot of our school improvement plans and our work that we've been talking about with Darnisa Monte Jackson around UDL and high quality tier 1. So it's all embedded in that. And then this committee is making specific recommendations around math instruction, but also our programming, our interventions, our curriculum, where we need to align, where we need to streamline, talking about the strengths, weaknesses, and our threats. So yeah.
I was actually wondering about that. One, thank you for showing your work. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of
really
course.
not only this deck, but the document that went along with it.
Yeah, and it was 100 pages because I was following, like each meeting we were continuing to add on. So I condensed what you have so that I wouldn't
appreciate
share 100 slides with you.
She said to me, I just wanna show them what the committee's looking at. I'm like, okay.
Yes.
So-
I can inundate you for hours about it, but I won't. So this is a high level summary.
I'm curious if the SWOT analysis is something you're ready to share yet as well.
There is a chart.
There is a chart. I'm not gonna, I did some summary because we're talking about what can we tackle as a team when time is one of those threats. Meaning what can we prioritize? Time is our most critical resource. And sometimes when you have too many priorities, you have no priorities. So we had to think really hard at our last meeting. What does this committee want to do? And what do you want to prioritize? So that's where I'm leading to.
I do have more questions about
yeah.
the data, but I'd love to come back to it.
Sure.
Michael, did you want to ask anything else about this data?
I want to hear more.
I want to hear the headline.
Where we
And remember,
start to
she's
look
only
at-
had
Yeah.
4 meetings.
Yeah.
So-
This is
the
great.
headline is not
The headline is
totally
let's
prime time.
shine a light on everything, and I think this is a thing to celebrate, even especially when the data is not what you wish it were. I think this is a great opportunity.
Yeah, I
Thank
think
you, Shelley.
that's our common practice and that's
Yeah.
what we're doing now with teachers. So-
Even just eliciting that there are gender gaps too, right? That there are small, female, male gender gaps as well in terms of, which is often why we say females often feel like math or science or the STEM fields are not for them. So we have to think about those barriers as well.
100%.
Again, we looked at different subgroups. Looked at, of course, the achievement over time by category. These were also in those MCAS slides I shared.
Yeah, this is data
last
you've
year.
seen, you're just
Yeah.
researching.
I was reminding the group of
Yes.
it. And then we looked at some of our STAR, which is our internal screener math assessment. Again, just remember, these are fall data. So you're going to see gaps because they are assessing you at that grade level and the year has just started. So we are seeing some growth. Schools and every grade level has time to look at these assessments, go further into these categories where students are struggling. We do know geometry has been a challenge. That's more at the upper grades. And always thinking about that in terms of some of the recommendations we made.
I think that's also.
That is often a scope and sequence issue,
Yeah.
that geometry gets pushed to the late part of the school year.
Yeah, then
Gets
MCAS
truncated a little
comes.
bit and sometimes misses the timing of the test. So that is a very common curriculum alignment issue.
This was just some of those strengths,
Love it.
these were questions, discussions, some things that we marked and noted. And so this is not all of it, but it was something that we do wanna prioritize when we think about next year.
Yeah.
So this chart, we'll have an opportunity also.
Yeah, so, strengths, of course, we have passionate educators, they're talented, we have such a great positive student engagement, we have established core curricula. We know that there's more that we can push around that curricula too, particularly at the middle school.
We're gonna cut to the headline, which
Yeah.
is we need an elementary curriculum that's research and
Yeah.
high quality. Everyday math is holding on, but it's not in that category anymore. The state doesn't
Right,
sanction it.
it's not considered one of
The trouble is that we have to get the literacy piece solid before we ask these teachers to pivot on math, so we're setting the stage
Yes,
for
we're
it,
setting the
but we're gonna
stage.
need a,
We're gonna need
more
time,
time,
yeah.
yeah.
Do you have an estimate?
I knew you were gonna ask me that. The principals have said we need to get through this next year where cohort 2 is rolling out EL for the first time. Assess where we are. I think we're gonna need next year and the year after to really stabilize EL. I think that's that next year, which would be what, 28, 29, we can pick our heads up and start to look at what we wanna do and start to vet tools and materials. But we're gonna need to do some real-time decision making as to where the teachers are and their well-being and their ability to not do too many priorities and do nothing well. So,
I think it's more to get it right than
yeah,
just do something.
I think my hope is we can take 2 years, by the end of that second year, kind of know where we wanna go, and maybe cohort 1 could start to dabble or something, but we're not gonna be able to say for sure till next year's further along.
And that will have budget implications too, so and
Yes,
that's where,
yes.
that's where we really intersect with it, so
Which
what
I
I'm saying,
think-
like,
Oh yeah, and you're gonna get to that intervention one she's about to say out loud, and you are going to have to talk with me on that when the budget
Yeah.
comes around, because it's
That is one of
arguably
our
we need-
weaknesses that was particularly highlighted at the K-5 level, was that we do have reading support, as you know, at all of our elementaries, but we do not have that same level of support for math.
can you just describe for new members?
Yeah.
Just what we have right now for math, just to get an understanding.
Well, we have, it's a
messy.
shared role of AP / math specialist.
For
But
each
you know,
elementary.
But that's
for
not
each,
even
but that's not even at the row anymore,
consistent
it's just an
anymore.
assistant principal.
On purpose, it's not consistent, cause that dual role
That
isn't
dual
working.
role doesn't work.
So
We need
a
full-time
standalone math
roles.
specialist.
So we would probably expect in the next budget cycle for an ask of math specialists.
Yes,
Where we
I
reading
did note it
specialists, right.
in every public
In every
setting that I
public setting,
didn't
yes.
ask this
Yes.
past time, but we're gonna need to, and
Yeah.
hopefully we'll be able to offset the increases with attrition or reallocations and things like that, but we do need to make the request.
And there's just a reality that you can't do that level of interventions necessary without a math specialist.
Right.
You also need that other support there when you think about the scope and the sequence and where you need to reteach. So having another person who is coaching, helping, supporting that data and looking at the data, so that's what the assistant principals can do. But it is very hard for them to find that time along with the other functions of their role as an assistant principal.
It's
No, I don't think there's any
not
other
doable.
district or school.
There's a long story to that if you all
Yeah.
want the history from 9 years ago.
Well,
but-
and I
It was
get
surprising
yeah.
to me coming here, I was like, oh, that's an
Well, that's
interesting-
because we didn't have assistant principals when we
Right,
got here.
right,
We
right.
had
There
to
weren't
fix
I know you had
that.
to make that work,
We had
but
to
it
fix
is, I don't know if that's, it's not working.
And the reading specialists are integral to rolling out the reading program.
Yes,
So if you're
absolutely.
even considering another math program, you really
Yeah.
need a math specialist to be able to engage with the rest of the staff and roll that
Yes.
out.
Particularly because it's such a heavy lift, any new curriculum, having someone that can think about facilitating discussions and data meetings is really a support that when a teacher, even lead teachers, teachers who've been in our district for years, veteran, it is very still hard for them to then be facilitating discussion or planning agendas. So that does get challenging for them.
Concern I have, if we look at the subgroup data that I looked at going back pretty much most of the time we've been looking is, it's concerning if we have all these contingencies to look at in terms of girdling out our literacy, English literacy before we get to math, how are we going to paint a picture for me of how we will start to close the mathematic gaps that we have what timeframe you see for that.
Well, I think, and obviously Shelley should weigh in, I think we are doing the best we can with the resources we have right now. There are limited interventions going on. Alcott's got some METCO support that is helping in that situation, and providing some supports there. I think it's gonna be really important that the math specialist requests stay in the budget this time. So that feels like the driving need right now to really be able to do that. In the meantime, we are also triaging the best we can everyday math. At least it is a tier 1 program, common, everyone's getting the same curriculum. What I think we're doing work on is making sure we're adjusting and modifying that as needed. It's a very language heavy program, so if you struggle with language, you actually can end up struggling in math because of the program. So we're working through those access points more and more and more. You're gonna hear, this will give away one of Shelley's, the group talked a lot about the need for more assessments. We're all not STAR as an assessment, but there's other tools for early math skills, sort of like a Dibbles.
It's more
Dibbles is
summative.
early reading skill set. There's now tools finally emerging for early math. So we need those because what we haven't had is the data that dissects what's not working for a child, where in reading, we know it's phonemic awareness and it's letter sound fluency. We haven't had that diagnostic set of tools in math, and they're finally starting to become more common, and there's a few of them to choose from. The research has been way in a very different place than reading. So that data set will be really important, and we wanna start piloting that in the elementary schools in the fall so that we get some mastery, at least understanding of it, and can make a vetted decision. So it's a combination of the intervention, the data to drive the intervention, and the robust tier 1 piece. So we're doing what we can with where we are.
So you mentioned the math intervention staying on, which is great. That's not something you put in place and you have immediate returns.
No, yeah.
So do you have, I mean, you don't have to have an answer to this, but what kind of lagging indicator would we have once that is in place?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's why we need the data points, because we don't have granular enough data now to assess that, which in reading's such a great model for us, because we know what that looks like when you've got all those really specific data points of mastery of the prerequisite skills to be a good reader.
Right,
We're
everyday
just now
math
getting that in math.
Assessments are still paper-based, which is great to look at student work. It is not great for capturing the data and then storing that data to look at growth and progress. So those teachers are having to do that, and it's heavy on them. And then for the lower grades, the math assessments start more at the first grade, upper grade levels, because you're using technology. So we are thinking of something that, just like Dibbles is a quick test screener tool that is used at all K-5, that's where Dr. Hunter, we've been talking with the educators and exploring some of those quick snapshot tools that do the lower grades and really get a sense of the big conceptual understandings they need by the end of K1 and 2 that help us
I
to
think right
do
now
earlier intervention.
we're not always sure what needs to be remediated because we don't have the tools, and they're very new, so it's not just us. The tools in place to know, is it letter, is it numerical, fluency, what is it that's not working, so we can intervene appropriately.
Well, and I feel like one thing that, is definitely kind of related to this is we have so many in-district special education programs. So we have most of our students are actually in district now, so they're embedded in all of this data. And just everyday math itself, like, you have a language-based learning disability, you really can't tease out where their math ability is versus where their disability, lies. So it's really trying to figure that out for individual kids too. And it's just, it's everyday math is what it is. It was great when it first came out, but I think it needs to adjust a little based on the needs of students.
And the point I think you're all in a total agreement with, and maybe Michael led with, we can't wait for the kids who need the support, and we know that.
And these are two
and we're
different topics.
triaging and
Yes.
brainstorming
It's
as much as we
short-term,
can
as much as we can,
to
but
make
also
sure that
thinking
that's being addressed.
Yes,
what we need to do in the long term.
the other thing I would like, I'm sure we all want, is for you to be very clear with us about the things that you'll need to implement.
Can you hear me queuing them up?
Budget.
Well, yeah, I
Thank you,
understand.
Michael, we
Yeah, I have that big
appreciate
ask
that.
list too, I've been pushing, and I think that the additional support staff
Yeah,
is really
clearly.
critical.
We're
That's
on the business
dedicated
of
to
educating our
that. Yeah.
kids if
Well, and I'll just say, it's not a surprise need, we've known,
Yeah.
we knew the assistant principal morph piece wasn't going to be great. But then we needed to go to special education administrators and stabilize
Yeah.
special ed before we could do the math, and that's the reason there's been some delay here. That was a big budget reshifting and reallocating of, multiple FTEs, so now that we've done that, it's definitely time to do math.
You mentioned the Metco supports as well. And you also mentioned the biggest barrier to progress is time. Michelle shared with me a wonderful idea, when we were in Boston at the meeting. Michelle, do you wanna share it with the group, the idea that we discussed?
So Drew and I were talking, and I had discussed this with Solange at one point, that a lot of these kids have so much time on the bus that it would be a great opportunity to utilize it, even if it was just a portion of the bus ride for like homework time with some assistance, with, older kids and helping younger kids, or, the monitor, available to answer questions. And I know, kids have been in school all day, they have a really long day, and probably not all of them want to do something like that. But where we're seeing such large achievement gaps, especially among subgroups, it would be such an awesome opportunity to take advantage of this additional time that they have. Because once they get back to Boston, it's 5:30 by the time they get home. And I think, just from my own experience in Metco, that's one of the reasons some of these kids are having a challenging time, is because there are such limitations on homework time at home with parents. Just an idea that I had. I don't know if that's anything that could be looked into to help kind of close some of these gaps and utilize time that they have on the bus.
The other thing
Wait, can I just say why I would love this idea? And Michelle, thank you, because I think it does two things. One, it supports students, but actually I think it's a creative application of turning what is traditionally thought of as a deficit into an opportunity. These students are on the bus 2-3 hours a day, and we think of that as such a burden. And if there could be an opportunity to turn this burden into extra support time. Now, I recognize there are many challenges. How do you put a person on the bus to do this? Who's gonna pay for it? And how many students are really interested? But I wonder, Shelley, if as you start to solution, one, this idea is a pet idea that I love because it just got my spidey sense going, Michelle. But I think there are maybe other opportunities all around us that simply require a different lens or imagination, or looking in the mirror and asking ourselves, how might we be the source of the problem, and how can we turn it into an opportunity to get better? I can tell you have mastery of all the pedagogy in our district. This is abundantly clear, and we have gifted teachers, and frankly, like, a pretty darn great set of students too. I think hopefully we can be a leader in this. In fact, I asked the Metco CEO, has this ever happened? And she said no. This has never happened on a Metco bus before, to her knowledge. And I'm not saying we need to be leading the vanguard here, but it could be a really opportunity to find a place of leverage to really close some achievement gaps in the meantime, as we wait for new curriculum, which I'm sure is gonna be a huge improvement as well.
I think.
Please, Michael.
No, I think there, memory serves, I was at Medco Advocacy Day, past 2 years, I've heard stories of a quiet time. At a certain point, people would say, at this point from here on, it's gonna be quiet time in the bus, so it's been experimented, not sort of regimented in the past. I think one other thing to keep in mind, if I look over the data, on the subgroups that are affected, is low income, special needs students, Hispanic students, Black students. So Medco and a host of other students are involved, so I think we need to be sort of casting our net wide in terms of the way that we want, the groups that we want to support. This is part of it. I think come down with the ideas and the areas that you'll need our support to focus on. I think that all of us are willing to roll up our sleeves and figure out the best way we can give you the support to get you what you need to help improve math proficiency for all of our students. But you know, some of the numbers historically have been alarming, and I wonder if there are other models that you can look at, other municipalities that have looked at this problem and solved it. I know I spoke in the past with John Saphir and Research for Better Teaching, and then he's just down the road and known to our administration. There are ways that schools with much less are able to make changes and close gaps. So I would ask you to not just talk with him, but talk with other resources in the area to try and really look at what we can do to close our gaps, because there are goals that we've set for ourselves, the goals that you set for yourself. Just look at the best ways we can do it and do it as timely fashion as possible.
Amen and hallelujah, Michael. I don't even have sleeves today. So I will say, actually, yeah.
So we're gonna remember this discussion when we're talking about the budget. We're looking
Yeah.
for math resources
You
and we're
totally are,
looking for
Teresa. I mean,
we
FTEs,
have to.
so we have to remember this
No,
discussion
don't
tonight.
worry.
Yeah.
And I might say that oftentimes the things that have the greatest impact don't always have the greatest price tag.
Agreed.
And sometimes you're surprised about what actually moves the needle the most. I in my experience running randomized controlled trials in education, I have been. And oddly enough, Massachusetts is #1 in the country in public education. It's natural for us to think of ourselves as a great place to learn, which we are. But the best places that are making the most gains and closing achievement gaps are actually in red states. Yeah, places like Mississippi,
Louisiana.
Yes.
Because they start, so they don't have the money per student that we do, but they're able to get a significant amount of bang for the buck.
And I think the headline of those stories can be misleading, but this is a conversation for another day.
Yeah.
I would want a whole sidebar with you guys on that one, but anyway, we won't do it now.
Yeah, there's a lot of different kind of
Yes.
factors as we think about that.
100% Shelley.
You know, where we are in Concord, and yes, this
Versus
is
what-
definitely
We totally agree with you. In fact,
a
I got an
conversation that we do need to go deeper in with our educators, in
Yeah, and-
thinking about, and there's a lot of folks talking about this.
Yep.
Because we know these gaps exist, and you've seen the statewide data, so you know
Yes.
that, you know,
We're not alone.
we're not alone in this challenge. I know we're not supposed to talk about the high school, but I do really think that
I'm
they.
gonna stop you if you do, because Brian and Lynette are not here.
I just sent them the presentation, so they'll know there's another
Let's,
conversation
we can
coming.
have the
I mean,
discussion.
I'm just
when
reminding
it is-
ourselves of the work they're doing about really eliminating opportunity and access gaps, and it's just really saying that we have to hold our kids to a high bar.
Yeah.
And that the expectations are the same, and that if you give them the opportunity, they will rise to the occasion.
Amen,
So we
Shelley.
will continue to do that. But it is a lot on educators when we're talking about how much you have to say differentiate or remove all those barriers to access. Because we receive students no matter what their background or knowledge is in math or any other content area.
Right.
So we take them from where they are, and it is very different. So it's what we can do when we think about alignment, and all of that research, I think, is always gonna remind us about those core instructional time that we have. That is always, to me, like the X factor, that relationship with the teacher and the students. And we have to continue to build that mathematical discourse, and just like the discourse, and it comes really at kindergarten. In pre-K, like we had pre-K in there to talk about that, right? About play-based mathematical practices, and just really thinking about building that, because we already know some of the research around gaps start.
Yeah, the data's gonna make a huge difference.
Yeah.
We don't have the granular information to know what skill a student is lacking, and we know we need
Yeah.
that.
And the MCAS is so late, it's not,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, it's in the rear view mirror, it's not ahead of us to say, we can understand some trends. And then that is what, say, eighth grade is looking at, to think about if they're missing too much geometry, how they're thinking about that scope and sequence.
When can we expect to see the final version of this? Cause I know it's still in.
The committee's meeting all
The
of next
committee's
year,
gonna- yeah.
so maybe you'll want
Oh,
a
that's
progress update
Yeah.
at some point.
Yeah.
And this is really multi-year process, right? Like, cause when you think about
The
that
cycle.
kind of committee cycle, you go through really 4 to 5 phases. So this needs assessment is really then thinking about some of those kind of next step practices we can tweak. But like we said, if we wanna think about that curriculum adoption, or really fine tuning K-12 curriculum, that's like year 3 we were talking about, and really not overwhelming particularly our K-5 educators.
So this is pre-K through 12 or K-12?
It's pre-K through 12 that this group
Probably
was.
fix this chart then.
Yeah, the preschool's in the room, so I don't know if Shelley just didn't put it on the chart.
So I think, and I
Oh,
think
yeah, and
that-
this one, sorry.
and
It did
this-
say it in the
On the title chart.
title chart, yeah,
Right.
sorry.
And this presentation came about, so Andrew and I, when we did the schedule for the year, and math was always gonna be something that we were gonna talk about, so it just happened in the spring, so for next year,
Yeah.
the chairs can just kind of keep that in there, like to plug in,
Right.
you know, a math update at some point.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Shelley, for being way ahead of the ball on this.
Yeah, so this really was, the last slide was just really around, we've really gotta think about the power standards and
Yeah.
deepening their conceptual understanding of that. And then tending really to those teaching practices. I think teachers often feel like they have to fill the gaps in for students, but productive struggle is that way of teachers building their stamina on complex problem solving and not giving up quickly. But that's also a threat in terms of time. You know, we always have this balance of, you've got 45 minutes to an hour on math instruction daily. You are competing against all the other commitments that a student has. So that also impacts our intervention. So we are really thinking about what is the intervention block, and when can math be the focus, because so much, especially K-5 is literacy, but then middle school, there's competing demands around those intervention enrichment blocks and giving students opportunity, because we don't want them to feel like if you're all about remediation, you don't get enrichment and opportunities that engage your interest and your own, you know, ownership of learning. So there's a lot we're thinking about, but that one thing of almost aligning our power standards so that we are really hitting those deep needs at every grade level and not feeling like we're having to tend to. If you looked at all the curriculum frameworks for every grade level, you just know how challenging it is to get to each specific aspect. So we're really trying to hone in on that and use that as our guide to remind us of what we need to get back to at each grade level. So that's one thing. And then again, what Lori had already shared about shared practices around some screeners and tools that are gonna give us more granular data to reteach and re-support our students during intervention.
A lot more to come.
Well,
Yeah.
Really appreciate the work that's gone into it. We'll basically schedule some more
Yeah.
interim updates for next year.
Yep, we're gonna
Maybe we'll bring
start
some
early.
teachers
Yeah, and
too.
all the teachers,
It's hard at this time of the year to get that organized
Yeah,
and
they're really
available,
good
but
to
we
be able
would
to share
love
the
to have
work.
some of the teachers come.
Have
They're
you
better
got
at
someone to take Matt's place?
We definitely will have all the principals apply.
Yeah, and all the principals are involved.
All involved.
Do you have, is there, do you have a resource that you can look at the models that have done, that have closed the gap successfully? And then you can showcase or present to us as, so this is a system that's comparable, a comparable demographic that has made a change, and just something we can look at, something that showcases, this is practice.
I think we're
I said
still
we should
talking
collect
with
these
the other
thoughts.
Yeah.
districts to find
Send
that.
Yeah, we are. I
Solution.
think
Yeah.
we are, like I said, back to the high school, I think they are more at the forefront of this than other school systems at the high school level about making sure that students have opportunity, and not gatekeeping. Sort of calculus
come.
and AP courses and
I'd
honors
love to
courses.
talk to you about it more, Michael.
Even at middle schools, we, detracked and de-leveled.
Yeah, a long time
Um,
ago.
There are still many middle schools in Massachusetts who track you based on your performance.
Yeah.
And put you either in sixth grade, you might be all together, but by seventh grade, you're either in the seventh, eighth grade track, and then by eighth grade, you're already taking. We have made sure that we're really providing access for all and not tracking you by sixth grade.
Yeah, which was a huge shift in
Yeah.
2020, 2021.
Yeah, I mean, I consulted this fall, Justin Cameron and I consulted with the neighboring district this
District.
fall about that. We did that years ago, they're just
Yeah.
talking about it now.
And just know that that is a contentious,
Oh, I know.
Yes.
right? The community has,
Yes.
in every
Especially
community.
communities like
Yes.
ours.
So just know it's not just.
It wasn't
We are
easy, I'm
pushing
gonna
it.
leave it at that,
Yeah.
it wasn't easy.
No.
But it was important.
So we have to do this collaboratively with the community, know that this is
The
important
question is,
for
what's
all.
the next thing
It's not
that
a
we're leading on?
loss, right, to some.
Well, you've heard our
Yes.
high level plan at least,
Yeah.
so.
I'm excited.
Any last questions before we move to the next item on the agenda?
We asked too many questions already. Thank you for.
No,
Last
that's
question
good.
for now, and then we can
We'll
ask
talk about curriculum areas all night long. Yeah.
Lots to do.
Alright, so next
Ready?
item,
Budget.
Bob, CPS budget update.
We have a very tight budgeted CPS, we've frozen the budget, we're actually gonna probably exceed the budget at the end of the year, which is not legal, but there's ways to
Still
offset that.
determined that we're not.
Um,
You keep saying that, I'm determined we're not.
So we'll end
Turn
up.
off the air conditioner. No,
yeah.
just kidding.
No, just not the air.
Sorry.
It's already up.
I already did it, Willard, haha.
For the record, that was not
Not
planned.
intentional.
Yeah, not planned at all.
And then so the mechanism to balance is we'll have to spend down our circuit breaker reserves a little bit, we had
Yeah.
600,000 in there. So we've frozen the budget, we have principals contacting us if we need to purchase anything. There are some small amounts, like 1,000 and few budget lines here and there for things like custodial supplies, we'll need to get, cleaning materials and things like that, but we're essentially trying not to spend anything the rest of the year. There's some expenses for graduation at the middle school. And so it's it's been a little bit tight the last couple of years at Concord Public Schools. This is probably tighter than that. But I think if we can get through this year, get to level footing in July and start again. And I think we'll be in a little better place in July for a few
Still
reasons.
determined, I haven't had our budget in the red yet, so still determined to not land
start
there.
now.
Yeah, I don't wanna
Yeah.
start now,
Well,
we're
pardon my
hoping to close it out.
ignorance, is it June 30th is in July, like?
June
Yeah.
July 1 to
30th
July
is the end of our fiscal year, a little bit after the end of the school year, and we need to encumber any expenses related to the year by that date.
Got it.
If we have work done in June, it has to be recorded in June, we can't, there's no
I see.
pushing things to the next year, it's not legal.
I see.
So if there's work that I'll give you an example, I was actually reading an email about a gym floor at the high school, they're not in the same situation financially. I would have pushed that off to July if they were in the same budget situation, but they're not, so
Right.
we'll just start it in June because that's schedule wise it works better, but if we had a similar thing at CPS that we wanted to do in late June, we probably would try to defer it to July, unless it was critical related to student safety or something that we legally had to do.
So accounting is basically always cash basis accounting, not accrual, like you would have the two sort of models in a business setting.
Yeah, it's not quite cash basis, it's
Sorry to
there's a
ask
co-
this here.
what's that?
Sorry to ask this.
You have to
Yeah.
reconcile with what the town is doing, right?
We reconcile with what the town is doing. The teachers get paid some of their school year wages over the summer. So cash wise, they're getting paid then, but it's all encumbered by June 30.
I see.
That's one example. Another one is like if we had let's say you were giving a guest lecture at one of the schools and you were a consultant, and that happened in June, but you hadn't invoiced us yet. It's still encumbered.
Still in June.
And even if we pay it in July, the rule is we have to encumber the funds.
I see.
And then, but bigger picture, it is tight. It's, it's been a consistent theme at Concord Public Schools. And we do get a little, I hesitate to say this because I don't want it to be spent, but we get a little bit relief at the beginning of next year because we do get back a reimbursement of about $180,000. The town, in addition to our core budget, is passing on the reimbursement for homeless transportation that we had to pay upfront. And so this reimbursement will happen, will be added to our budget in FY27. It actually relates to the expenses we incurred in FY25.
Right.
About $300,000 in homeless transportation. So that's like a measure of relief that we feel like will help next year.
And the principals and the staff are all aware that we're in a budget freeze right now.
They are.
Okay.
They don't like being.
They don't like
reminded
that.
of
I know,
emails
sorry, just
asking,
have to say it.
but yeah, again, if something's critical. We're certainly cognizant of, some of the challenges, particularly at Alcott right now and Willard with, at Thoreau with fire. And Alcott, a lot of the expenses we have at Thoreau are covered by insurance.
Yep.
But if something's not and it's important, we might,
Right.
try to, they're making the best of the situation they have, and we want to support that.
Beyond the fires, what were the drivers for making this particularly more dire than previously?
No, I would say it's just a lot of things. Some of it was legal expenses, some of it's a more expensive winter with the heating costs.
Those are the two big buckets.
Yeah. Those are the two.
So when you zero base and unexpected things happen, this is where you land. We know that and.
Any other questions? Anything, Michelle? Well, we know you're the person for the hour. We'll make sure we finish the line.
Thanks, Bob. Do you need any?
I'm the one gonna fix,
He just presents
he's gonna
numbers.
fix my red, but I'm gonna just be black, so there's nothing to fix. Alright.
Last item on the agenda is the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail update. I believe Bob with Shelley are gonna do this.
Yeah, Shelley Carlin's online. She's got some updates from the committee side and Bob's got
This is the connector.
financial.
Middle school.
Yeah. Hi, Shelley.
Hi. I hope you all get to stand up and stretch after this. Yeah,
Two different offices.
let me share my slides with you. Can you see that? Probably not.
No, not yet.
Is the share access working, Shelley?
I'm not seeing it.
It is not working.
You can email them to me and I'll share.
Let me try it this way. Okay, that works. It won't share the whole window.
There you go.
Great.
Okay. So, I'm here to give you all an update about the Bruce Freeman connection to the Concord Middle School. This should be very brief, since most of the information got to you in February, last time I saw you all. If you're not aware of what the project is, this is a conceptual design of connecting the rail trail to the Ellen Garrison building. It's thought to be about a 1/4-mile trail. So since I talked to you in February, we've added a couple groups in the community support realm. The select board endorsed the project in March, and Monsters in the Basement, which if you don't know is a local group of around 400 cyclists, gave us a letter of support also in March. In terms of funding updates, we've transferred around $50,000, not around, but we've transferred $50,000 to CPS for the project. And since I spoke to you last, we've also received an anonymous donation of $25,000 that's in process. And all the other funding timeline events are the same. And the other big step we've taken since then is our group has worked with Bob to submit an RFQ to get bidders on board for the project. And as part of this process, we've created an updated and more granular project roadmap. So it just has more detail than the one you saw before. And this is still very high level, as Bob can tell you. Each line item is basically a paragraph instead of a line item. But we hope to get this started in June and have phase 1 of design and planning done in August of this year. So a pretty fast turnaround. And then phase 2 should be October of this year through May of 2027. And we hope to get the final design and bidding process for construction in that window. And then phase 3 is the construction and opening. So if everything goes smoothly, we'll be done on time in 2027.
Thank you, Shelley. Any questions?
Great,
Did you
congratulations
have any
on the
other details?
donation.
Yeah, I can share some
Yeah.
information on the, so we worked with Shelley and some other members, I think of the Friends of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, or the Concord Middle School PTG. Well, Shelley and Friends is what I'll call it. And,
It's not Monsters, but it's.
And wanted to, we worked through, we have a pretty comprehensive request for qualifications outlining, so to making it clear to companies what the work is, what qualifications we want in companies. And initially we were gonna send it out to just a few groups, but we've had some experience recently, particularly with the Thoreau School, where we didn't get bids. So I expanded the group and I reached out to some of the other contractors we looked at in the past that had applied to some of our bids. So it's kind of gone out now to I think 8 or 9 companies, and one has responded already saying the time frame isn't something that will work for them, and one of them was a larger company and I think more expensive, and they said the budget won't work for them. So I'm hopeful that we'll get at least a couple bids to choose from.
Yeah.
There's certain good companies in the mix. We also have a company that was recommended that did some work on the schematic free of charge. We can't factor that into the selection process, but we can certainly look at their credentials. And so the way the process works is we rank them based on their credentials, and then we negotiate price. And if they are within our budget, we can work with them. If they're not, then we've stated in our proposal our budget's $50,000. So we're hopeful that we can get somebody that can do the work for that. We also broke the proposal into different phases because I know there's at some point in the process, we're going to want to share more detailed designs with constituents. In early phases, we might be getting some input. Shelley showed student input in June. We're not going to have a design at that point, but as they do some work, we're going to want to get some input on preliminary designs. We can get to a point where their design's not complete, but enough that we could share with the committee, here's what the design looks like right now, and get some either confirmation or modification on the direction they're in before they finish it. Yeah, at this point we've sent out the RFQ and we're hoping to get some responses.
Thank you, Bob. Any questions?
No.
Seems great. Yeah, encouraging.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Shelley.
Yeah, thank you for the fundraising efforts too. It's Great that you got another donation.
Well, thank you for your support on this.
Thanks, Shelley, talk to you soon.
All right.
Okay, all right, bye-bye.
At this point, I'll entertain a motion to enter executive session.
I move the Concord School Committee will enter executive session under purpose 3 of the open meeting law to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with the CTA, ESP, and not returning to open session.
Second.
Do we have to do a roll call?
We have to roll call because it's well, you can second it. Can somebody else second it?
Nice one, Michael.
Roll call.
Okay, who's first now? I
Hercheck's
gotta
not
look
here.
at, her check's not here, so
Aliansi, aye.
Morano, I.
Bishardi, aye.
Williams, aye.
Can you sign those before?
Right. Thank you all for attending. We will now go into executive session. Thank you, Michelle.
All right, thanks, guys. Good night.
Thank
Nice,
Michelle,
Michelle.
thank you.